Jackie, you are live on Talk Heathen. What's going on?
Not much. How about for you guys?
Oh, I'm just hosting Talk Heathen, a live call-in show that happens every Sunday. 1 p.m. Central.
I had a pretty good Thanksgiving.
Great.
Nope. Unfortunately, I only had I had one slice of pie, but it wasn't the best. But yeah.
Aww.
So anyway, I just called in to discuss. Was that?
Oh, I just went, aw, because I'm sorry that your pie wasn't good. But yeah.
Well, Jackie, I would say you deserve more pie, but then you're about to give us your take, and maybe after your take, I'm not going to think that you do deserve more pie. So we'll find out, Jackie. What did you want to call us about today?
So I just wanted to call in to talk about Descartes' trademark argument for God's existence. So do I have to go over for the premises for you guys, or are either of you guys?
Well, yes. I mean, even if we all knew, it's great for the audience to know as well. What premises you're working off of. Plus, you may have a different understanding than what we might understand of it. So yeah, go ahead, give it out to us. Lay it all out.
Okay. So premise one, Descartes argues, and I don't think this will be controversial with anybody here, that there's an idea of God as a perfect being, or God as an infinite being. I think we can all accept that as a legitimate premise. That at least
no, but okay,
I can't.
Go ahead
I can't
and continue.
accept that. I have to stop right there because you said God is perfect or God is infinite, and those two things are not the same thing. So which one is it, and which one are you going with?
Well, we can just say God is. Well, we can say God is infinite for this purpose, or God is the most powerful being.
Okay, so God is perfect, or God is infinite, or God is the most powerful. So I just have an issue because what I don't want to happen later is that you start intertwining and using these three definitions interchangeably. Right. I don't want you to be using perfect and infinite and all powerful later in the conversation.
So I will chime in, Jimmy. For Descartes' argument, that's kind of the argument a little bit. There is this kind of thing here. I think traditionally it's said that God is a supremely perfect being. I think is the first
that's what I'm seeing.
So I'm gonna cross these out, and I'm putting supremely perfect.
Yes, well, because existence is part of the thing. We'll get to that anyway. Premise 2. We'll move on, Jackie. Premise 2.
So premise 2 is essentially that things that are caused, like a lesser thing can't cause a greater thing, or something which is less perfect can't cause something which is more perfect.
Okay. That's not my understanding of Descartes' argument, but that's fine. We can work with that.
Okay. Well, here's as I understand it, perhaps a better way to phrase it. So, to my understanding, Descartes, the second premise of Descartes' argument is that when you have a God as conceived as an infinite, all-perfect being, or supremely perfect being, is the exact phrasing, can't be caused by a finite substance. That's Descartes' second premise.
So Descartes' argument is the ontological argument, right? And so I'm not trying to hijack the conversation, but just maybe just to speed things along here, right? This is Descartes' whole idea is this. His idea is okay, we have a supremely perfect being, and a supremely perfect being has to exist because that's what it means to be perfect. A supremely perfect being has to exist in reality, because that's how we can conceive of a perfect being, and therefore God exists because he's a supremely perfect being. Now, for an atheist, the problem becomes kind of self-evident because we're just kind of defining things into existence, right? We're kind of giving these qualities, these attributes that may or may not be real, and aren't really based on anything observable. I've never observed a perfect thing. I don't know what a perfect thing is. I don't know what it can or can't do. And so this is why kind of this argument kind of doesn't work. In Descartes' world, Descartes, obviously brilliant mathematician, right? He has this whole idea of math being outside of ourselves and stuff. And so I think in his world, God being part of kind of mathematics in a way kind of makes sense. We have these sort of abstract ideas that seem to conform to reality, right? And so God must be kind of one of these ideas, right? He has to be existent because we see math in our everyday lives. Of course, philosophers have talked about the existence of math and the implications of what it says about reality, right? But for most of us, we don't find that convincing because, again, we're just kind of defining stuff without like really knowing why. Again, I don't know what a perfect being is. I don't know what it entails. I don't know why I think it should exist in reality versus not exist in reality. Does that make sense?
No, you didn't accurately represent Descartes' argument. Descartes' argument is that the
feel free to correct me.
Because the reason is because Descartes' argument is that the cause of an effect is as real as the cause. So the cause of the effect of a supremely perfect being has to be as real as. So we have this idea of the supremely perfect being, which is the cause. The effect. Sorry. The effect is the idea. The cause has to be supremely perfect being. The idea of the supremely perfect being can only be caused by a supremely perfect being. Therefore, a supremely perfect being has to exist. So, like, it's not as though, well, we have this idea of a perfect being and, many possible worlds. I think you're conflating it with Anselm's version of the ontological argument. Descartes' version of the ontological argument is just the idea of the supremely perfect being has to be caused by a supremely perfect being. It's the effect with the cause.
Just as an aside, that's not what I've been finding. I'm pretty sure that Dan's representation was accurate, at least to what I've been finding anywhere just now. But this idea that only an idea of a perfect God could come from the existence of a perfect God. Is that, in summary, kind of what we're getting
here's
to?
the confusion. I think we're talking about Descartes' ontological argument and Descartes' cosmological argument. Right. You're talking about because the cosmological one is for causes. You're talking about his cause argument because that's different.
I'm talking about his. I think it's called the trademark argument.
I'm not from. It could be called the trademark argument. I'm not formally trained in philosophy. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's a. I'm trying to make
Jackie,
sure that I'm not misremembering things here. But yes,
Jackie,
I think you may be talking about his cosmological argument, which is the idea that everything has a cause and therefore this idea of God has a cause, right? And so if God is infinite and everything else, then he has to be contained in sort of that idea. And therefore, so that's a little bit of a different thing. I have
a question. May I just ask, Jackie, why are you bringing this up if you don't even really know what the argument is?
No, I don't know. I don't think that's fair because we might be misspeaking here. I don't know if because I might be the one that's misunderstanding Jackie. I want to give Jackie the benefit.
But I'm not saying that your idea is conflicting with his. I'm saying that Jackie is saying, well, I think it's this and I think it's that, and honestly, I'm getting lost in kind of why it's important. Why doesn't Jackie just tell us what Jackie thinks? Because Descartes not here to argue with us.
I think that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. So maybe we rephrase it as whatever Jackie thinks is true, right? Because the argument should be true regardless of whatever Descartes defines it as, right? That's fair. Yeah. Maybe let's start over here. Let's try to do 1, 2, and 3 again. And instead of me interrupting you and asking you if I think it's right or not for each premise, why don't you go through those premises again? And let's try it again. How does that sound, Jackie?
We're wasting a lot of time. I told you this is the trademark argument. You can say it's a version of cosmological argument. I did not mean the ontological argument, and I've already gone through the premise. A, there's an idea of a perfect being. B, the effect has to be as real as the cause, so the cause has to be as real as the effect. So the cause of the idea of the supreme perfect being must be a supremely perfect being. C, we have this idea of the supremely perfect being in some people's minds. Therefore, it has to actually have a cause, and that cause is God. So
if this is true, then it would be. Let's just take that idea of there wouldn't be an idea of a supremely perfect being without a supremely perfect being. If we just take that, then if having any explanation for this idea that is not a supremely perfect being, that would dismantle their argument, correct?
Well, do you disagree with the premise?
That that every cause must be greater than its effects?
Yeah. Do you disagree with that?
No, of course I disagree with that. Have you ever played dominoes? Like there's, you can end up with a much wider ranging effect. And I think if we're looking for a reason why we have this idea of a supremely perfect being, there are lots of explanations for that do not require a supremely perfect being. And I absolutely don't agree that the cause must be greater than the effect. I think that sounds sort of like nonsense to me. That sounds like something that sounds like true when you assert it in a philosophical argument, but I can think of, there's other phrases that contradict it if we're just going to argue through sayings, like the wings of a butterfly in China cause hurricanes, and wherever the end of that phrase goes. So I don't agree with the premise, but I also feel like if we're trying to get to the conclusion that God is real, then just saying, hey, we believe in a perfect God because it's nice for us to imagine that there's control, that there's perfection, that we're a social species, and we're able to take perspective by being a social species. That is a survival advantage, which requires imagination, which leads us to imagine things that may or may not even exist. So I guess I have a problem with pretty much every part of this, and I don't find it particularly compelling.
Okay, so if you just disagree with the premise that the cause has to be as great or greater than the effect, then I suppose that's just something which would disqualify it from the beginning, because
pretty much.
Yeah, so if that's the case, I guess it is like a sort of a metaphysical question, which I don't know if it's falsifiable.
Definitely. Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm a little lost on why we have to have, like, we can't have this idea of a perfect being without the perfect being first existing. I don't know how do we know that is true?
Descartes' thing was the idea has to originate outside of yourself, because we're not perfect beings, I guess. I don't know. I never really understood it either, but that was kind of his thinking. I don't know if that's Jackie's thinking on the subject, though.
I mean, I think it's a fine argument, but if you just disagree with the premise that things which are less great than something can't cause a greater thing to exist, perhaps that's a metaphysical question which I would have to look more into the arguments against.
For me, the definition of great is subjective, and I would have to ask, how are you defining great? And then we have to go from there.
Yep.
I would also disagree. Greatness is necessarily subjective. I think we can clearly say some things are better than others.
No,
I mean, I think
I don't think so. But that's a topic for a different time, Jackie. That's something that definitely falls within the purview of this show. And if you want to talk to us about it, absolutely, we'd love to do that. But I do think that we have some other callers that want to talk to us. So, is there any other comments you want to make before we let you go?
No, I suppose I would just have to look more into the arguments about the problems with claiming, effect and cause and greatness in relation to that. But
Jackie, I really want to hear what you like, dude. Love your calls, and I really liked today's call. But specifically, I want to hear what you have to say, because you're always coming on and talking about some philosopher, and you're clearly doing the work to understand these concepts and form your own opinions. I really want to get to know what Jackie, what Jackie's perspective is. So maybe next time.
Okay. Well, good talking to you guys.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.